Hello, everyone. Long time no see. It's great to see everyone. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Michelle Kinney. You're watching the Mayday Network. This is the Daily Dispatch. I am still flying solo here without Julie Roginsky, my partner in crime. She is still in Asia having a lovely vacation. I'm sure we'll hear all about the amazing things that she did and saw while she was there. And I've been sick and unable to do this, so it's really glad I'm really glad to be back. Um, so everybody, I wanted to bring everybody a story that has not made the news outside of local news where this is occurring. Um, for anybody who watches this channel or this network, may or may not know that I grew up in Northern New York. Just a few miles from Lake Ontario, stone's throw from the St. Lawrence River. Um, my family has lived there for a very long time. It's a small community. Everybody kind of knows everybody's business kind of thing. Um, and I also share a hometown region with border czar Tom Homan. Mushmouth Tom Homan, who if you can understand the words that are coming out of his mouth, they're usually something horrible. This man is responsible for so much suffering in this country right now. He is the mastermind behind kids in cages during the first administration, and now really the mastermind working in tandem with Stephen Miller to deport people who, I mean, we all know what's going on here, and the guy is evil and it's awful. And he grew up in a place called West Carthage. It's, I don't know, 1,000 people live there, maybe. He was a village cop, went on to work for border security, and he then was appointed by Barack Obama, and now is the border czar under Donald Trump. But he still owns property up there, and he still spends a fair amount of time up there. That's not any private information. That's pretty public. And he has had some run-ins with the community. I will remind everyone of this story from last year. In Sackets Harbor, New York. This is a small village. It's an historic village right on Lake Ontario. There is a battle from the 1812. There's some battlefields. There's a lot of people come here for various reasons. There was a mother and 3 children that were detained by ICE at a nearby farm as part of a raid. And the community banded together in a way that, quite frankly, shocked me. Having, I'm from there, and it's a very Republican, it's a very red area. Elise Stefanik represents this area. And Claudia Tenney with the new lines drawn. The teachers, the community came together. 1,000 people marched in this tiny village to Tom Homan's house and pressured him into releasing this mother and the 3 children from this community that were beloved. This community was traumatized by what happened. And I'll just read this. This is from the New York Times because Tom Homan eventually did release them. And I think part of that was just because of just some hometown embarrassment and pressure. It says 3 children and their mother have been released from federal custody after being detained by immigration enforcement agents last month. No, this is last year. The case sent shockwaves through tiny Sackets Harbor, New York, a village of about 1,400 people on Lake Ontario, where the children were enrolled and well-liked at the town school. The family's detention was another move amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown to touch off protests. About 1,000 people rallied on the family's behalf on Saturday, according to North Country Public Radio. The release of the woman and her children, a third grader, and 2 high school students was announced by Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, and the local state assemblyman Scott Gray, who is a Republican. So I want to start there. And what has happened in the last, I don't know, last day? A friend of mine from back home sent this story to me. I don't think that anyone really meant for this to be a public story. Sackets Harbor, again, really tiny village of about 1,400 people. They have a young-ish mayor. His name is Alex Morja. And Alex Morja also happens to be a local business owner. He owns an inn there. He owns, I think, part of the docks where people put their boats and whatnot. And he privately sent a letter to the Homan family and said, I'm no longer comfortable having your boat docked on my property for his business. And I'm also no longer going to rent out rooms at the inn to your security detail. Now, I cannot emphasize enough what a Republican area this is. So that in and of itself was very surprising to me. And Amy just not renewing the lease for the boat slip. Okay, so that's people who know boat things. That's the thing. Thank you, Amy. So I don't know how this got leaked and how it went public, but there is a local radio station, a local radio show that is hosted by a former mayor of Watertown, New York, named Jeff Graham. Very conservative, if you can even use that word. On his show this morning, told the story and some details. And I've edited this a little bit down, but let's listen to this. This was on public radio this morning.
I know I'm not a licensed newsman, but this was from Sackets Harbor of all places. You remember, and Sackets Harbor is a very Tony community, a little bit woke, a little bit, yes. But anyway, remember when they had that thing about the 3 kids that were taken off a farm, the migrants, and they had a demonstration. They walked down past Tom Homan's house because he has a home up here. Tom Homan's the national border czar, for those who don't know. A very prominent national figure now. And he's from West Carthage, but he has a home there, and he doesn't live in that home in Sackets, but he has another home in Sackets. We're not going to get into locations because we don't want to. But anyway, he has a boat. Like a lot of people in Sackets have boats, right? Not a big boat. Well, I don't know. I hear it's like 20 feet. That's not a big boat. That's not a big cigarette boat with guys with chains on it and all that. That's not Tom Homan's style. But he had it docked at that marina over. You see, there's a marina by the old Barracks restaurant. Remember that? Leo used to own it. Now the mayor owns it. Alex Morgan. Nice man. I've communicated with him this morning by text. He's very accommodating. Anyway, Mayor Morja sent a letter to Tom Homan saying, I'm not going to renew your slip. Not the kind of lady wears. I mean, that's what they call what you put the boat in between the docks, a slip. Wow. Why wouldn't you rent Tom Homan a slip? And also told him, because he also owns a hotel down there, he was not going to rent rooms to Mr. Homan's security detail if he was up here, because obviously Mr. Homan has to have some security. Now, personally, if I owned a hotel and somebody wanted to rent a half dozen rooms and it was guaranteed rent, I'd rent it. Yeah. So anyway, I did get a hold of the mayor because I don't think it's, I have a little bit of that reporter instinct still in me. Yep, a little bit of that old Mizzou spirit. So I got a hold of the mayor this morning. He was traveling, but he was nice enough to get back to me with a statement. And he's unapologetic. This is not one of the, don't run that story, don't run that story. No, he doesn't care. He says, if there's going to be a story, that's it. And in fact, I sent this statement to Channel 7, to John Moore and to Jeff Cole, and they ran it on their new news. Yeah, that's nice. That's the fastest they've ever turned news around that I can remember. Anyway, here's the statement from Mayor Morja. Ready? And I'll read it verbatim. All right. Jeff, thanks for your patience. Here's where I'm at. About 3 weeks ago, I reached out to the Homan family directly and let them know I wouldn't be renewing the boat slip this season and wouldn't be hosting their security detail at my hotel. I did that privately, and out of respect, I didn't want to catch them off guard. My reasoning is pretty straightforward. I have employees, guests, and residents at the marina and hotels from a lot of different backgrounds, and I have to consider their comfort. I'm also just not comfortable having my business associated with the direction federal enforcement has taken. That's a personal and business call and mine to make. To your point, this has nothing to do with the village docks or any public infrastructure. This is my private business, my call. This was not about making a public announcement or scoring political points. This was about me choosing who I do business with. But if it's going to be a story, that's the story. Well, Mayor, thank you for your prompt response, first of all. And yes, it is a story. There's people in the community say, well, no, that's a no, it's a story. Trust me. I disagree with the mayor. I respect him. It is his business. But as you know, from me being mayor, aspects of my business were deemed news. I couldn't have strippers anymore once I was mayor, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So that's interesting. And Tom Homan. Good afternoon.
So that was the voice of Jeff Graham. He was mayor at one point in Watertown, which is about 15 miles away. And you'll notice at the end, he was like, the things that I did in my private business when I was mayor were news. Like I couldn't have strippers anymore. Yes, that person was the mayor of my hometown when I was a kid growing up. Wet t-shirt contest, the whole thing. Great. That being said, really conservative, very, very Republican guy. Talking about this. Now, this mayor in Sackets Harbor, I don't think he meant for this to be public. I don't think that he wanted to do this. I think that's why he reached out privately to try to, resolve this or at least notify him, like Jeff Graham said in that radio, the radio show. And listen, the moral courage that it takes to be the mayor of a little place like this, where most everyone's going to disagree with you based on your own beliefs. And you're not doing it through the government. You're not doing it in your official role as mayor, but as a small business owner, you're making the choice. Now, from what I'm seeing in comment sections, again, in this very small community, people are freaking out. The one guy, sent a video of himself saying, I hope something happens to you by an illegal, blah, 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 blah. These people, but the funniest thing about this, I guess funny, is these people think that this is discrimination. It is not. Having political beliefs or belonging to a political party or a particular ideology is not a protected class. That is not a protected class of people. So, no, that's not discrimination. That is choosing who you want to do business with. That is a different situation than perhaps a business discriminating against African Americans, women, gay people, protected class under the federal law, and under the Civil Rights Act. So they're wrong with that. They're just wrong. But the thing about this, and I'm sure this will become bigger news shortly, and I'm sure we'll start to learn more about this. But a lot of us say that in this moment that we are living in, and this is something we've often asked ourselves, if you were living through Nazi Germany, if you were living through the 1930s and 40s, what would you do? How would you behave? What kind of choices would you make? What kind of people would you surround yourself with? And Mayor Alex Morja of Sackets Harbor said, I don't want to do business or be associated with that man who is doing these horrible, horrible things to human beings, to people in this country, stripping them of their rights, detaining them, torturing them, and sending them to concentration camps outside the borders of the United States. So I wanted to commend Mayor Morja. I don't know him. I've never met him. He has a familiar last name. Again, it's a small community. His big Italian family with that last name, so I'm assuming probably related. I don't know what his political affiliations are. Again, I didn't have a lot of time to kind of put this together, but I did think it was just important that this man, Tom Homan, who is a very powerful man in this country, returning home to his very conservative area where he owns property and spends time with his family, is being told, no, hit the road, not here. It's comforting. I'll say that. And just more from the local news here, because Jeff Graham in the radio show that I just played for you called the local TV station. They have journalists there. Jeff Cole wrote this and reported on this. That Alex Morja owns a marina and hotels in Sackets Harbor. He confirmed that 3 weeks ago, he told Homan he's not renewing his boat slip this season and that he's not hosting Homan's security detail at his hotels going forward. And I'll repeat the statement here again if you're just joining us. He says, and I quote, I am not comfortable having my businesses associated with the direction federal enforcement has taken. I have employees, guests, and community members from a lot of different backgrounds, and their comfort matters to me. It was a personal business decision, and it's mine to make. Now, for a lot of people in the community, again, in the comment sections that are all freaking out, the choice to kind of own the libs here is interesting because these policies are hurting this community in a very unique way that a lot of other communities may not be experiencing. And I have some notes here. The agriculture in the North Country. Dairy generates nearly $4 billion annually in the New York Adirondack Explorer, and the industry depends heavily on immigrant labor. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that 50% of farm workers lack legal status. So what happens to these farms and these farmers when Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, and the Trump administration come in and raid these people and take away all of this labor, all of this work? As one North Country farmer put it, some farms would not be able to survive without their immigrant labor. New York dairy exports dropped about 12% in the first half of 2025 compared to 2024. I didn't have the more recent numbers. I can only assume worse. Now, in addition to that, Canadian tourism, another huge piece of the economy in this part of the country. The North Country Chamber of Commerce survey found 66% of businesses had already experienced a dip in Canadian bookings, with nearly 37% saying Canadian visitors make up more than a quarter of their customers. If you were Canadian, would you want to come here right now? Would you want to take the chance? I certainly wouldn't. The local news there said that the border traffic was down 31% in around this time last year. compared to the year before when Joe Biden was president. There's also tariffs, which has less to do with Tom Homan, but collectively, this is an administration that is hurting this part of the country. But again, it's, owning the libs. I don't know why we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I really don't. And a lot of the people who have a lot of things to say about this, I would argue, probably don't own a boat or aren't going to stay at these hotels or anything like that. It's mind-boggling, the cognitive dissonance that continues to exist in this political climate. I will say the tide is turning. If you're watching CNN or if you're keeping on top of the polls, Donald Trump's numbers are in the tank. He is so far underwater in job approval and gas prices and grocery prices. And I mean, it's being reflected in the polls. That's for sure. But I did want to just come on here and share this story because you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I'm sure in the next couple of days, much like the story about the mother and her 3 children last year. I think it was either here or when we were doing Over It, I brought that story to everyone. And then it was picked up by national news just a few days later. We'll see what happens here, but I think that this community is sending a message to this man that you don't get to leave here and commit crimes against humanity and strip people of their human rights and ignore the United States Constitution and habeas corpus, and then come back to your cozy house and just go about life as usual. That's not how we're going to do things. That's just not how we're going to do things. So again, I commend Mayor Alex Morja. Fantastic. If this continues to, if there's more development in this story, I will let you guys know. I might reach out to him to see if he would want to come on and talk to us. And I got to give it to him for trying to do the right thing. He, despite the differences, he really did try to do the right thing. But Tom Homan's going to have to find a new place for his security detail to stay nearby. And there aren't a lot of hotels in the area. You have to kind of get in the car and drive a ways. So that will be interesting. And we don't know where he's going to put his boat. I saw a lot of people in the comments saying, "Oh, you can dock it at my marina in on the St. Lawrence River." I'm like, that's far. That's not near there. That's not near his house. He wants to be able to enjoy it. And he's not going to be able to as easily. So everybody, that's it for now. That's the story. There's lots of other things happening here. Just a programming note, Thursday night, we're going to do a Final Four preview for women's and men's basketball for March Madness. If you guys caught that UConn game the other night, oh my God. Joe and I think, screamed so loud that we woke up the neighbors. And we'll be back with Jeff Jarvis on Friday morning. The latest episode of The Illegals Americans Rewatch podcast will drop on Thursday, and we will have Saturdays for Sanity, 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Dana Dubois will be joining us. It will be lots and lots of fun. And Julie will be stateside Thursday evening. So she'll be back. We'll get to hear from her, get to see her. I miss her. And, go and share this story. Go share the story. Share it on social media. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. And I will see you all very, very soon. Take care.